How you doing? And welcome to Lifestyle Design Podcast. Today we're talking about interior design from a real estate perspective. We're going to speak with Dan Cooper, owner of the Dan Cooper Group. Don't forget to give this podcast a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. And also follow us on Instagram and Facebook. One of the things I tell my clients all the time, this renovation is going to suck. There's going to be all sorts of things that potentially can go wrong, and sometimes they do. So we have to make sure that the end is worth it. So what you need to do is plan. The first step is your team, your real estate agent, your designer, and your contractor are going to get together. They're going to give you a realistic expectation and a limit to what you should be doing and a bottom line to what you should be doing to make this whole process work. Look, the goal here is to create your dream home. So you want to bring in an expert in the industry. You want to bring in one of the best. And I have that for you today, Dan Cooper. The Dan Cooper Group is one of the leading real estate agents in the Burlington Oakville area. He's established since 1991. Royal LePage voted him in 2019 into their Hall of Fame. So this guy knows his stuff. He's a legend when it comes to real estate market. He's going to come on, he's going to give us some insights, share some advice, and we're going to talk about the industry right now, the whole COVID-19, how that's affecting things, and really what he's doing to prepare his company, his group, and work with his clients to get them ready for when things change. Beautiful. Hi, Dan. How are you doing? Thank you for joining me on my second podcast. So I really appreciate it. How are you doing? I see that you're up in a beautiful spot. How are you coping with the situation that's going on right now? Where are you exactly?
Well, I'm at the cottage, and it's funny. With all these COVID pandemic fears, what's the point in staying in the city? Because it's created a whole new opportunity where we can, work more remotely and just stay out of Dodge for a little while, because the whole idea is to do some quarantining and some self-isolation. So it's a good opportunity to sort of have some time to work on your business from a slightly different perspective.
Yeah, and what better place than cottage? Yeah, I wish. That's a beautiful scenery. So it's really quiet up there. Are there a lot of other cottages occupied now, or?
Yeah, more than you think, actually, because when I go for a walk, like I've got my little buddy here. Can you see Tyson?
Oh, look at there. How you doing, buddy?
I've been taking him for long walks every day. And, we've noticed that probably every third cottage has cars in the laneway. So I think a lot of people decided to get out of the city and just take a break.
Yeah, no, makes sense. I would do the same. So let's get right into it. Real estate. Talking about a people business and actually going out and having to be amongst people. So obviously, I can imagine your industry has been dramatically affected. So just give me the overall instant impact that it's had on your business.
My business typically is right now it's upside down because nobody knows what's going on, and it's really a waiting game. There's a lot of people, buyers and sellers, who want to transact, but they're just scared to. They're waiting on the sidelines to see what happens. We need some positive news. We need to see the COVID curves flatten out a little. We need to see some good news, maybe, some products and medicines on the horizon that are going to save us. And I think once we get to that point, hopefully it'll be not so much business as usual, but whatever the new norm is, I'd like to head to that as soon as possible, because right now, one thing is having everybody on hold with this pandemic, but if we're on hold too long, then you're going to have a bit of a financial meltdown because people have bills to pay.
Yep. So is that what happened? Did you have listings that you put on hold, or what exactly was the reaction? What are you recommending to your clients who kind of want or need to sell?
Well, let me go back a couple of years, because to be honest, we've had a pretty good run in the real estate market for years. So I got into the business in the early 90s, and that I got involved when we were in the middle of a recession. Like we got hit hard in 89, 90 by probably one of the worst recessions I've seen. And our market basically went down from 90 to 1990 to 96. And so since 96 to basically, current times, it's been up basically for 20 years. And so real estate has been a good space to be into for many, many years. Everybody's making money. Everybody had real estate in their portfolio. And I guess the beginning of the end was in April 20th, 2017. We had the foreign buyers tax come out. A lot of the foreign investment coming into the GTA, they started shopping other places like Ottawa and Montreal. And it took, I don't know, the GTA was not as in vogue as it was because there was that 15% surcharge. And so since then, we have had at least 5 interest rate hikes on the bank rate. And we have also, in January of 2018, we had the stress test. So that stress test alone made it that about 1/3 of my buyers did not qualify anymore. So suddenly, nobody was buying and selling real estate. So the last 2 years, so going into 2018 and 2019, especially in the 905 area code, it's been tough slugging. It's been a lot harder to transact real estate because real estate hasn't been in vogue the same way. I mean, Toronto's been on fire, but mostly like condos because that's what the millennials want. The millennials want condos, and so that's been on fire. But our market has taken a real hit. So it was really just the spring of 2020 where things were getting back on track. January and February, we were starting to get some really good numbers going. We had some great listings coming to the market. We had some good sales going on, just a lot of momentum. And there was, it was really starting to happen. And then suddenly COVID comes in and just throws a wrench in everybody's, life.
Yeah. So it's the condo market picked up because it's a lower entry point as well, right? So easier to qualify because the cost of the property is a lot lower. So that stress test, I'm assuming, affected the higher market properties more than it did lower markets, or is that a wrong assumption?
Well, no, you're right. It's just that whenever the market has a bit of a setback, it's the high end that gets affected first because it's not reality. The majority of the people, like my average sale price right now would be about 1.3 million, and that's in the west end of the city, that's a good price range to be in because that's where a lot of the business is going. But we have listings for 3, 4, 5, 6, $7 million, and that kind of transaction isn't being done right now because everybody, as I said earlier, they're waiting to see what happens because nobody wants to do a big purchase if suddenly things get worse.
Right. Definitely. Everyone's talking about there's a new normal coming, right? Obviously schools are going online. A lot of people are working from home, but real estate's different. Real estate, you actually have to go, or maybe you don't. Do you have to go out and actually visit properties? So do you think it's going to adjust back as close to as it was before, or do you see a new normal coming?
Well, yes, I think we do have a new normal coming, and we're not sure what that is. I do see a lot of things going virtual. Like 2 months ago, I really didn't know what a Zoom meeting was, and now it's like I've done 2 Zoom meetings today, and now I'm doing a podcast with you. So we are going to learn how to live in our homes more remotely than we ever did. And, I wouldn't want to be one of these big companies that owns millions of square feet of office space because honestly, I think big companies are going to look twice again about, putting hundreds of employees into an office space when they know they can work remotely. Like even both my kids work in Toronto. One's in IT and one's in the financial services sector, both working remotely. And maybe that will be the new norm. So life has changed. And to be honest, this whole pandemic thing has kind of made the world hit a reset button. And it all depends how you look at it. You can look at this as something really bad and negative and be scared, or you can look at it as an opportunity to embrace change and come back more positive in a different way, in a different fashion.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people have quit spending money because we don't know what's going to happen. People are deferring their mortgages. They're deferring their payments. They're scared to spend any money because you're right. If this goes 3-6 months, we don't know. Eventually people are going to run out of money. So even myself, I've had to cut back on a lot of things. And then I've realized that a lot of money I'm spending is kind of wasted money anyway. So it's probably a wake up call for everybody. And I think at the end of this, we're going to look back and go, wow, that was actually not a bad experience.
Yeah, it's the great purge, right? And then you come back cleaner and fresher. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more specifically about real estate. Let's ignore what's happening right now. I kind of want to get your advice as as doing interior design and decorating. I work with clients who not only just decorate but who renovate. So we'll start here. One thing, I meet a lot of people who want to do a kitchen and bathroom, a very common renovation, and sometimes they want to go a little bit more, like do their basement. So the question becomes about budget. So the first thing I say is, well, how much is it really going to increase the value of your home? We need to figure that out. So we need to talk to a realtor, because a realtor is the only one in the neighborhood who truly knows what houses go for with what sort of finishes. They've seen everybody's house. So what sort of renovations do you feel are the safest, and do you kind of normally recommend? And how do you suggest people budget and draw that line of what's too much for a home?
Well, we know that homes do tend to date every 10 years. And so even if you have a brand new home, pretty much rest assured in 10 years, it's going to be dated somewhat. So you're going to have to do some changes to it. So I guess it depends on how long a hold it is. Is it a principal residence where you're raising your family, or is it strictly an investment property? Because there's different rules apply to both. But in terms of doing safe renovations, obviously kitchens and bathrooms are probably the first thing that I would consider doing. And a big thing is color. We're getting away from the browns, obviously, and go to the muted grays. Ceiling height is a huge deal. I mean, if I just look at the new builds, go back 20 years, everything was 8-foot ceilings. Now it's very hard to sell a home with 8-foot ceilings. The builders went to 9 feet. Now they're at 10 feet. Everything is more open concept. There's a real modern feel and trend going on. So I'm not saying uber modern, but definitely things have headed to cleaner lines, less clutter, more open spaces. Back in the 80s and 90s, all the homes being built were very compartmentalized, where you had your living room, your dining room, your den, your kitchen. Whereas now you walk in and you've got basically a great room, which is part kitchen, maybe his and hers offices. And just, the choice of material is different. Back in the day, we used 10 by 10 ceramic tile. Now everything's like 3-foot by 3-foot porcelain. It's so much more fun, and there's so many more products and materials, and just the way they build now, the technologies that are available to us. You almost want to move every 5 years now just to take advantage of the latest and greatest stuff that's out there. You're in your heyday. You must be having a ball doing what you're doing.
You know what? And every time I get to do a client's home, I go home, and my home I did 2 years ago. I'm like, if only I could have done it now, because the newest, latest stuff, it's my house is dated already. So yeah, definitely. So you have a client who's about to list, but they need work. Maybe the kitchen's a little dated, the basement's unfinished, the stuff. Is there a point where you say, it's better to just throw your money in, take 6 months and renovate, or it's not worth the effort? What's kind of your recommendation usually?
Well, to be honest, I think you can renovate too much sometimes. If you're looking at selling a property strictly to, say, move on and buy something bigger or smaller, then I always use the word lipstick. You want to do some cosmetic changes, some
Right.
superficial changes, but you don't need to go deep. Sometimes you can go a long way with the appropriate lipstick, some smart home staging. There's a lot of companies, that you can get furniture, you can rent furniture, whatever the case may be. But I don't think you need to go that deep these days. I think it's just make the cosmetics look better.
Well, and that brings me to a question I was going to talk to you: the staging or not staging. Is that usually a guarantee you're going to go in and stage a home, or what's really your rule of thumb there? If it's a home that someone's been living in.
Well, I mean, a lot of homes that I go into, and I'm probably in 250 homes a year with my staff. There's a lot of homeowners out there that are very conscientious, and they have beautiful homes that really need next to nothing. But I would argue that most homes we go in need something. And so I do have, some home stagers that superficially will go in and help us declutter and change things out so the homes present themselves better. But I would say at least half the homes really don't need anything, but we always look at it from a third party perspective. as a buyer, we put our buyer hat on for a minute and we pretend we're walking in the home, and what are we noticing that's blatant or glaring at us that should be changed? That maybe when you're living in the home, you don't see these things, but just decluttering goes a long way, and having, the appropriate furniture, because furniture that's 30 years old isn't going to help you sell your home anymore. And furniture is actually cheap. It's easy to get, and it makes a massive difference. Even just artwork and some accessories go a long way. Like I'm looking behind you in the picture right now where your office is, and you got some beautiful accessories there that, half a day in a home with fresh accessories is going to make a massive difference.
Definitely. And it's interesting. Whenever I don't stage a lot of homes, but the times I've worked with clients where maybe we are going to renovate and stage to get them something new, the thing I try to tell them is we almost want to take a lot of their personality out of the home, because the next person has to be able to imprint their own personality. And if it's too unique and too powerful, it becomes a roadblock. So staging is kind of like tuning down. I say we just got to tone down your place, make it really neutral, make someone be able to say, "Oh, if I did this or I did that, it can come alive with my feeling."
And depersonalize the home. You want to take personal effects down, like pictures of the family off the walls, because the first thing you want to do is have the client, the buyer, prospective buyer, kind of feel themselves in the home and what it's going to be like if it was their property. So you want to neutralize a home and depersonalize it for sure.
If the basement is unfinished and someone's a year or two away and they're contemplating, does it make sense finishing a basement? What would your opinion be on that? Is that just too big of a job to do? Leave it for the next buyer, or should they do something light?
I think if you were going to stay there for 2 to 3 years, then it would make sense to finish the basement, because if you finish the basement and then suddenly you're picking up on average 1,000 to 1,500 square feet more usable living space, but just be careful how you do it. Again, create an open concept environment that is in thinking with what people do today. So it should be an extension of what the rest of the house looks like. Don't cheap out and do a lesser basement. But if you're looking at finishing the basement just for the sole purpose of selling the home, then I would probably discourage that, because you don't want to spend a dollar to make a dollar. I think, you got to be careful there, because you can get carried away. Again, if it's your own home and you want to live in it for a few years, you're going to probably blow the budget and do something amazing. And it's going to help you sell down the road and get more money. But you have to be careful, because everybody spends more money than they say they're going into.
Definitely. And how important is it to know what your neighbors or within the general area have done? Like, do you have to kind of stay on par with everybody, keep up with the Joneses, or if you're trying to get top dollar for your house, is it really important that everybody else has a pool or everybody else has finished basement, therefore I need that? What would be your opinion there, or your recommendation?
Well, I guess it all boils down to location too, because you have to be careful, because as homes get 40 years old, 30 to 40 to 50 years old, then the value of the bricks and mortar reverts back to zero, because you're starting to head back to land value pricing. Like if you take a section of Oakville, like southwest Oakville towards Bronte, there's lots of older bungalows on nice yards, 60 by 125 yards, but everybody's knocking the homes down. So suddenly, if you're on a transitioning street, like most streets, it's land value again. So you don't want to pop money into an old bungalow. You don't want to spend $150,000 and do a superficial renovation on an older bungalow if half the homes on that street are torn down with new 4,000 square foot homes going up, because you just have to look ahead and realize what kind of area are you in. If it's transitioning, then be careful. You don't want to spend money on the old product.
So that's kind of lends to know your buyer, right? If your buyer is most likely going to be an investor or someone who's going to be tearing to do some work, there's almost nothing you can do that's going to satisfy what they're going to do.
Right, because how many times do I get called in to sell a renovated bungalow on a home where all the homes around it are 4,000 square foot new rebuilds? Yeah. And when I'm telling them that the house isn't really worth much, it's tough to take. So you have to be careful. And if you're going to do a renovation, then do a massive renovation, so then the home is in keeping with what's happening on the streets, because you always have to look 5 and 10 years out.
Right.
Because real estate homes do have a shelf life, and these days everybody wants the latest and greatest product. So buyers these days aren't happy with the old product. They want the newest. Like 20 years ago, I used to sell historical homes, and there was a lot of them in the west end of the city, and but the period homes aren't as in vogue anymore. Everybody wants modern. They want glass. They want open feel, And so if you drive around right now, everything's got that Frank Lloyd Wright look to it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so you have a buyer now who's looking to buy, and they're maybe buying something that's recently renovated. How do you what do you caution people to avoid wind up buying something that might be not flip with the quality? Like, someone who just bought a house, put some the cheapest things on it, and bought it, and then it becomes your nightmare. So what's the buyer beware kind of things you look out for, you suggest to your clients?
I can see a cheap renovation from a mile away. So I suppose, obviously, real estate agents are always going to have value to a buyer. Let's face it, because as much as we're trying to do things remotely these days, and we're doing, we're experimenting with virtual open houses and live streaming, but people still want to look, touch, feel, taste, and get inside real estate. And so that's never going to change. And it's much like this pandemic; it's going to blow over. And I can kind of compare it to back the last setback I think we had was back in 2008, where we had basically a mini recession where our market went south overnight for probably four quarters, whereas it bounced back really fast too. And if you talk to people now, like even yourself, like what do you remember from the 2008 recession? Not much, right?
Yeah, it's gone. Yeah,
And so what? We've been in quarantine, in 2 months from now, when we're back at work, it's going to go, people are going to go, what? What happened?
exactly.
So, I think, we're going to be back at work in some capacity shortly, and real estate agents will be doing their thing. And for the 30 years I've been in the business, typically it seems like the same amount of real estate gets transacted every year, but it gets done at different times in the year based on current events. There's a scare about something, or, we have an interest rate hike. It puts a wrench in things. So real estate isn't sold as quick, but, I think at the end of this slowdown we're having right now, I think it's going to be business as usual. And I think you're going to see a very hot real estate market going into a summer, because there's a lot of people right now that want to transact real estate in some capacity, and they're ready to go. I mean, I'm talking to people daily who want to do something, and I'm cautioning them. I'm saying, well, let's wait a few weeks. Let's let the worst day get over. Let's start rebuilding, and then make sure you're back and ready to roll. But I honestly think it's going to be business as usual sooner than you think.
Something that popped up a while ago, and I want to get your opinion on this, is people selling them homes themselves, their homes themselves, without real estate agents. What would you kind of caution? What would be your opinion on that?
Well, I mean, there's people that try to do it themselves, and in certain markets, you can get away with doing that. You've got the private for sales and the for sale by owner, and there's some discount brokerages that have had limited success. But at the end of the day, I think real estate agents really, really do justify their existence and what they charge accordingly. Because how many homes have I listed where somebody's tried to sell it privately? They spent several $1,000s with their own little home marketing system that has failed, and then in the 11th hour, I've sold the home for much more money, because if I can expose that home to an international market, even in the GTA, like how many people there? Like there's 55,000 agents just on the Toronto Real Estate Board. So when I list a property, I get the word out to everybody. I'm a mass marketer. I love marketing. And so how many times do I list a property and it sells in multiple bids? You can't do that on your own. I mean, if you list your own home and try to do it privately, you're not going to get as many eyes on the property as I can do. And so, how many times have I raised the bar where we're asking X, but we get like $50,000 more than the list price, just because I'm taking advantage of all the latest and greatest marketing.
Right. So then that's really what they're buying into, right? A seller, they're buying into your network chain, and your ability to get it out as fast as possible.
Well, of course. And, to be honest, I mean, our commissions are being challenged, and we've gone with that. So, I think everybody's negotiable these days, but there is still a job to be done. And the real estate space is a very complicated space these days. It's not like the old days 30 years ago, where you really didn't need to know much, and it was pretty easy to become a real estate agent. But now it's a very intense series of courses. It's basically at the university level. There's MBA people running around transacting real estate. It's a very qualified group right now. And, you know, I I work with a lot of proficient real estate agents where they really do add value to a sale. So, I think that is not going to change. And even right now with the COVID pandemic, we're an essential service. So what does that tell you?
Yeah, exactly. Dan, I really appreciate your time. Before I let you go, I just want to give you a second to just tell us a little bit about your company, your team, exactly how you work, how to get a hold of you, so that everybody watching can reach out to you.
Sure. Well, I've got a group of 12 very successful agents. I have a team of 4 full-time administrators. We've always worried about the quality, not the quantity. So, we transact a lot of business, but yet we really get in the trenches with our people. We get very emotionally tied into our buyers and sellers and make sure it's a very positive experience. I think you can see that just online now. We have well over 500 Google reviews, and I think that speaks volumes for us. So, we love the business. Again, we're huge into marketing, and the easiest way to get a hold of us is just through our website, which is dancooper.com. And we're quite easy to find. We're looking to have a very aggressive spring when this is all said and done. And so I encourage and welcome as much new business as possible.
Actually, I think that might happen because everyone is kind of waiting to position either to list or buy. There might be an influx of both, right? Did you anticipate it will be a seller's market or buyer's market when we kind of get back, or is it going to be both?
Well, I think it's good for everybody. So I would say we're probably in a relatively balanced market because it's good for everybody because there's a lot of pent up demand right now. It's good for buyers because real estate, like interest rates, are so cheap.
Yeah.
So when you can get like a 5-year fixed mortgage for around 3%, it is a no-brainer. Take advantage of that, invest, and borrow as much money as you can at that rate because it's unprecedented that kind of interest rate. And for the sellers right now, prices are in check. Prices are not out of line in the GTA. If you look on the world level, like if you look at the LAs and the Chicagos and the New Yorks, dollars per square foot, they're way ahead of what we're charging. So I think there's still lots of room to move.
All the time. We haven't capped out yet. No way.
Not at all. And I think you're going to see prices go up. There's been some interesting editorials I've read just in the last few days where everyone is anticipating real estate to go up. And it's been a very good, successful vehicle for a lot of people. On average, it seems like we at least keep pace with inflation. We're probably doing around 6 to 7% per year just on, appreciation in real estate. So it doesn't matter, what side of the fence you're on. It's a good market overall.
They also wanted to mention about the marketing. Another way to see Dan Cooper around is the Coopers that are driving around city with the
it's a Burberry wrap.
Burberry, that's the Burberry wrap on the Coopers. Yeah, it's awesome. I love them.
A name like Dan Cooper, we have to drive Mini Coopers.
Exactly.
We've got a bunch of them on the road. They're actually a fantastic little commercial, and I've got a lot of competitive real estate teams which have imitated this in some capacity by driving cars. I guess the only thing is, it's a good thing my last name's not Ferrari.
Exactly, to be broken. Awesome, Dan. Thank you very, very much. I hope to see you around town again and enjoy the solace and the beautiful cottage that you have there. We'll talk.
Thank you. Look forward to it, and I appreciate your time.
All right. Take care, Dan. Well, there you have it. Thinking about a renovation, if you're looking to do a purchase or a sell, you really want to talk to an agent first. So when it comes to styling your house, I'm not talking about just your furniture. When it comes to making those structural changes to your home or ripping out that kitchen, let's establish your standards and your boundaries first, and then we can decide to blow them out of the water or not. So thank you again, Dan, for giving the insight. Hope everybody stays safe. Be sure to comment below. Let me know what you think about this episode. Give me a thumbs up for sure. Subscribe, and press the notification button so you're updated whenever we update.